At 2 a.m., I hit Livestream just to call for help, and in 8 minutes, 68,000 people watched in silence as my stepfather kicked down my door. If you've ever been trapped between fear and truth, stay until the end because I turned my own apartment into an online courtroom. Comment and tell me where you're watching from, and remember, in America, violent people hate one thing most: light. That night, I turned on every single one. My name is Harper Quinn, and at 2:03 a.m., on that March night, I heard my apartment door lock rattling like someone was trying to shake it loose from its frame. The motion sensor on my doorbell cam lit up my phone screen. 1 notification, then 3, then continuous alerts flooding in like a digital scream. My body moved before my mind caught up muscle memory from 3 years working as a technical producer at Echo Grid Local, where we covered breaking news, and I'd learned that hesitation kills stories, and sometimes people. I grabbed my laptop, fingers flying across shortcuts I'd configured months ago. Echo Live Kit booted up in 17 seconds. 3 camera feeds snapped to life on my screen: webcam showing my living room, doorbell camera on the hallway, phone propped against books for a wide angle. The stream title typed itself, "If I Go Silent, Call 911. The doorbell feed showed him clearly: Daryl Knox, my stepfather, rain-soaked jacket clinging to his shoulders, crowbar gripped in his right hand like he'd been born holding it. Even through the camera's night vision, I could see his jaw working that grinding motion he did when bourbon stopped being enough and violence became the only language left. My Columbus apartment suddenly felt like a cardboard box: 2 deadbolts, 1 chain, hollow core door that any determined drunk could splinter. The building's security system was a joke broken since January. Landlord kept promising next week. Next week. I'd stopped believing in next weeks. The stream went live. Numbers started climbing in the corner. 31 viewers, 90, 300. "He's here," I said to the camera, my voice steadier than my hands. Daryl Knox, 6'2", gray Ford F-150 in the lot. License plate Ohio GHK 4782. I have a protection order. He's violating it right now. The crowbar scraped against my door. Testing. Measuring. The sound made my teeth ache. I hit record on the cloud backup, everything mirrored to 3 separate servers. Auto-save every 10 seconds. Learned that from covering a domestic violence case where the victim's phone got destroyed mid-recording. No second chances in this kind of documentation. 500 viewers. 800. The chat started flowing: strangers typing from their beds, their night shifts, their insomniac scrolling. Columbus Dispatch notified: recording this on my end too. Stay strong. Get away from the door. But I couldn't move. Had to keep all 3 cameras in frame. Had to maintain the evidence chain. My phone buzzed. Tessa Blake, my audio tech partner, was watching. Then Mr. Whitaker from down the hall. Then strangers, hundreds of them, becoming witnesses to what was about to happen. The doorknob turned. Slow. Deliberate. He was savoring this: the power, the fear he thought I was drowning in. What he didn't know was that I'd stopped being afraid the day I learned to use light as a weapon. Every lamp in my apartment blazed. Every overhead fixture on full brightness. No shadows for him to hide in. No darkness to swallow the truth. 2,000 viewers. The crowbar found the gap between door and frame. "I'm streaming live," I called out, loud enough for the hall camera to catch. 60 seconds ago, you became evidence." The crowbar paused, then resumed with doubled force. 3,000 viewers. 6,000. The chat became a blur of cities, states, countries, people waking up to become my jury, my witnesses, my protection in pixels and bandwidth. At 2:11 a.m., the door gave way. Before Daryl, there was pine wood and motor oil, Sunday pancakes, and ice fishing on Lake Superior. My real father, Evan Quinn, built boats in Duluth. Minnesota, not yachts for rich folks, but honest fishing vessels that could handle Superior's November gales. His hands were maps of scars and splinters, but they were gentle when he taught me to tie sailing knots or adjust a camera lens. He'd bought me my first camera at a garage sale, an old cannon that weighed more than my school backpack. Mom worked at the Duluth Public Library, surrounded by quiet and order. Luann Quinn believed in cataloging everything: recipes, photos, first teeth, report cards. Our house smelled like old books and fresh sawdust, a combination that meant safety. Then came the ice. Black ice on Highway 61, the kind you can't see until you're already spinning. Dad's truck versus a concrete barrier. The barrier won. I was 15, old enough to understand death, but not old enough to understand how it dismantles everything else, how Mom would stop eating, stop talking, stop remembering to pay the electricity bill until we sat in darkness for 3 days before a neighbor noticed. Enter Daryl Knox, 6 months later. He showed up to fix our furnace during the worst February freeze in a decade. Big shoulders, steady voice, tool belt that jangled with purpose. He fixed the furnace for free, then the garage door, then Mom's smile, or something that looked enough like a smile to fool everyone, including me. "Your mother needs looking after," he'd said, pressing a silver chain into my palm the day before their courthouse wedding. No ceremony, no guests, just signatures and a promise ring that left a green mark on Mom's finger. "And you need to learn your place in this family." The chain was thin, cheap, the kind that breaks if you look at it wrong. But his message was titanium strong. He never hit us at first. Daryl was smarter than that. He built walls instead, invisible ones. My bedroom door had to stay open. Always. Family doesn't have secrets. My after-school job money went into a family fund that only he could access, contributing to the household. My phone got checked every night. Keeping you safe from predators. Mom shrank into herself like a dying star, all that light collapsing inward until only darkness remained. She'd stand at the kitchen window holding Dad's old coffee mug, staring at nothing while Daryl commentated on everything wrong with dinner, with her appearance, with my attitude. The first time he grabbed me, really grabbed me, fingers leaving bruises like passport stamps, was the day I got accepted to Lakeview Community College with a partial scholarship for video production. "You're not going anywhere," he'd said, ripping the acceptance letter into confetti. "Your mother needs you here." But I'd already sent my deposit using money hidden in a tampon box, the one place he never checked. 3 weeks later, I left at 4 a.m., while he slept off a 12-pack. Mom stood in the doorway, wouldn't meet my eyes, just whispered, "Don't come back." I thought leaving would break his hold. I thought distance meant safety. But Daryl Knox didn't believe in boundaries, physical or legal. He believed in possession, and in his mind. I was inventory that had escaped. The emails started a month after I moved to Columbus. Then the calls from blocked numbers. Then the photos of my car, my apartment building, my coffee shop, all tagged with "nice place" or "saw you today." Mom stayed, whether from fear, dependence, or some toxic mixture of both. She stayed in that house that still smelled like pine wood but now reeked of Marlboros and Jim Beam. She stayed while I built a new life 8 hours south, learning to steady cameras and capture truth in pixels and timestamps. The protection order took 6 attempts. Judges wanted documented physical violence, not just threats and stalking. The legal system. I learned. Waits for blood before it acts. Sometimes not even then. But that night, at 2:11 a.m., with my door in splinters and 68,000 strangers as my witnesses, Daryl Knox was about to give everyone all the documentation they could ever need. Lakeview Community College saved my life, not metaphorically, but literally. The video production program was small, underfunded, and perfect. Professor Martinez taught us that cameras don't just record, they testify. "Every frame is evidence," she'd say, adjusting white balance like a surgeon. "Timestamp, metadata, chain of custody. Truth needs paperwork." I learned to build stories from fragments. Color correction at 6 a.m. Audio syncing until my eyes burned. The proper way to label files: date, time, location, subject. No ambiguity, no room for doubt. In the editing bay, I discovered that evidence isn't about what happened, it's about proving what happened. Tessa Blake found me crying in Studio B after Daryl's 15th call that day. She was working on her senior audio project. Something about binaural recording for documentaries. Built like a linebacker. Voice like a therapist. She didn't ask questions, just handed me tissues and helped me set up call recording software. "Abusers hate documentation," she said, fingers flying across her mixing board. "They thrive in shadows and denial, so we flood them with light." Together, we turned my phone into a surveillance device. Every call recorded, backed up, transcribed, every text screenshotted and archived, every email forwarded to 3 separate accounts. Tessa taught me about audio levels and voice stress patterns, how to identify background noises that could establish location. We were building a case file, one harassment at a time. The job at Echo Grid Local came through Tessa's connection. They needed someone who could handle technical producing, managing live feeds, coordinating remote cameras, building graphics on the fly. The pay was nothing spectacular, but the knowledge was invaluable. I learned about streaming protocols, redundant backups, cloud architecture. More importantly, I learned how to stay calm when everything was falling apart on air. My Columbus apartment was chosen strategically. 3rd floor, harder to access windows. Corner unit, only one shared wall. Near a fire station, faster response times. Mr. Hal Whitaker lived down the hall, a 70-year-old former postal inspector who still noticed everything. "You're running from someone," he'd said my 2nd week there. Not a question, but a statement. I showed him Daryl's photo. He taped it inside his apartment door. The first protection order filing was educational. The clerk gave me forms like she was serving coffee board, routine, already thinking about lunch. "You'll need specific incidents," she said. "Dates, times, witnesses." I had 11 pages of documentation. The judge gave me 10 minutes to present it. Denied. No immediate physical threat. The second attempt included photos of my slashed tires. Denied. Can't prove it was him. The third had recordings of death threats. Denied. Intoxicated rambling isn't actionable threat. Ava Marlowe took my case pro bono after the 4th denial. Public defender turned private practice, specialized in stalking cases. "The system's built to fail victims," she said, reviewing my files. "So we build a better system." She taught me legal strategy like chess. Document everything twice. Always have witnesses. Create paper trails that even a blind judge couldn't ignore. The 5th attempt included 32 pieces of evidence. Still denied. The 6th finally stuck. But only for 90 days. "Temporary protection," the judge said, like Daryl's obsession had an expiration date. But I was learning too. Installing security cameras was just the start. Tessa helped me build what we called the panic protocol. One keyboard shortcut would activate everything Livestream to multiple platforms. Cloud recording, automatic emails to emergency contacts with my location and situation. The stream would include a ticker with the protection order number, Daryl's description, and instructions for viewers to contact Columbus police. "You're weaponizing transparency," Tessa said, testing the system for the 10th time. "Making it impossible to hurt you without the whole world watching." The Marlboro butts started appearing in February. Fresh ones, still warm sometimes. Always Daryl's brand. Always just outside the protection order's 100-yard boundary. The law called it coincidence. I called it hunting behavior. Then Mom texted blue wall. Our code from years ago, when I was 17 and she needed me to lie to Daryl about where she was. It meant I'm not safe. I'm being monitored. Don't trust what I say next. 3 days later, Daryl's F-150 appeared in my neighborhood, legal distance maintained, always moving before cops arrived. He was testing response times, mapping patterns, the predator learning the territory before the strike. The night before, everything changed. I sat with Mr. Whitaker over tea. "He's escalating," the old man said, voice certain. "Seen it before in postal investigations. They circle closer until something snaps." "I know," I told him. "That's what I'm counting on." Because I was done running, done hiding. If Daryl wanted to strike, I'd make sure the whole world was watching when he did. The legal system runs on paper and precedent. Ava Marlowe knew this like a surgeon knows anatomy. In her cramped office above a Vietnamese restaurant, she spread my case across 3 tables like a war map. "Protection orders are just paper," she said, highlighting dates with yellow marker. "But paper stacked high enough becomes a wall." We filed motions, amendments, supplemental evidence reports. Each document copied in triplicate, notarized, date-stamped. The Franklin County Courthouse clerks knew me by name. I knew their coffee orders. The system was grinding, but it was moving. "Your stepfather's smart," Ava noted, reviewing the surveillance footage of him sitting in his truck exactly 101 yards from my building. "He knows the boundaries, but smart men make arrogant mistakes." The technology came together piece by piece. Door sensors that logged every opening to the cloud timestamp, duration, accompanied by photo, window vibration monitors that could distinguish between wind and attempted entry, a decibel meter app running continuously, creating an audio log admissible in court. My apartment became a data collection center disguised as a home. Tessa engineered the streaming setup with redundancy that would make NASA jealous. Primary stream to YouTube, mirrored to Twitch, backed up to a private server in real time. The panic macro was elegant. F9 key triggered everything. Streams went live, recordings started, emails fired off with GPS coordinates and embedded video links. We tested it 43 times until muscle memory made it automatic. "The latency is under 2 seconds, Tessa explained, adjusting the encoding settings. "Even if he cuts your internet, the cellular backup kicks in. Even if he smashes your phone, the laptop keeps running. Even if he destroys the laptop, everything's already in the cloud." The contact list was strategic. Ava Marlowe for legal documentation, Tessa for technical backup, Mr. Whitaker for immediate physical response. Columbus Police Dispatch not 911 but the direct line Ava had provided. Local news stations, because nothing motivated police response like knowing cameras were coming. Mom's communication became a puzzle. "Weather's nice here" meant she was okay. Thinking of redecorating meant Daryl was drunk. "Blue wall" meant danger, monitoring, don't trust anything else. The messages came irregularly, sometimes from new numbers. I kept a spreadsheet, looking for patterns. March 1st, 3:37 p.m. Blue wall, he knows where you work. March 3rd, 11:20 p.m. Found your old yearbook. Such good memories. Not her words. Her yearbook was destroyed in a basement flood years ago. March 5th, 6 a.m. Blue wall, blue wall, blue wall. I wanted to drive north, extract her, but Ava forbade it. You cross state lines to confront him. You lose every legal protection. You become the aggressor in the system's eyes. So I waited, documented, prepared. The software modifications took weeks. Every camera app configured for maximum quality and minimum delay. Cloud storage expanded to handle hours of HD footage. Automatic transcription services for converting audio threats to searchable text. We even set up keyword alerts if certain phrases were detected. The system would flag them for legal review. "You're building a prosecution kit," Ava said, approving the setup. "When he crosses the line, and he will, we'll have him from 17 angles with timeline precision." Mr. Whitaker contributed his own preparations. Former postal inspector habits died hard. He mapped optimal police approach routes, calculated response times based on shift changes, even identified which apartment windows had the best angle on my door. "I've got a police scanner and good ears," he said. "First sign of trouble. I'm your early warning system." The test runs were exhausting, simulating panic while maintaining technical precision, learning to narrate clearly while afraid stating his name, description, license plate, protection order number, making sure every word was legally useful, not just emotionally true. "Shh, you're not just streaming," Tessa reminded me during practice. "You're creating court-admissible evidence in real time. Every word matters." The microphones were hidden but legal. Ohio's one-party consent law meant I could record any conversation I was part of. The doorbell camera was visible, no expectation of privacy in apartment hallways. The indoor cameras were my right as a tenant. Everything by the book, everything defensible. March 7th brought roses. 12 red ones, left just outside the protection order boundary. Card unsigned, but message clear, soon. The florist had no record of the order. Paid cash, fake name. But the security footage showed Daryl's truck in their parking lot. Another piece of evidence, another police report filed and ignored. He's escalating on schedule, Ava said, adding the Rose documentation to our files. Stalkers follow patterns, the gifts, the boundary testing, the proxy communications through your mother. He's building to something. She was right. The something was 43 hours away, though none of us knew it then. All we knew was that every system was in place. Every backup had a backup. And when Daryl Knox finally snapped, we'd be ready to show the world exactly who he was. The trap wasn't violence. It was transparency. And he was about to walk right into it. The rain started at 4 p.m., one of those March storms that turns Columbus gray and makes everyone drive like they've forgotten how roads work. I was editing footage at my desk when Mom called. Her number. But I knew before answering that it wasn't really her. Blue wall. Her voice was flat, mechanical. The voice she used when Daryl was standing behind her, probably holding another phone to record, making sure she said exactly what he wanted. Mom. I kept my voice neutral, already hitting record on my end. You should come home, Harper. We miss you. Each word carefully spaced, like reading from a script. Your stepfather wants to apologize. Make things right. Is he there with you now? A pause. Too long. The weather's nice here. You should visit. Weather's nice meant she was okay, but it was raining there too. The contradiction was intentional, her small rebellion, letting me know she was lying under duress. My mother, still fighting in the only way she could. I can't come home. Mom, you know why. He's changed. He's getting help. The lie was so obvious it hurt. Then, barely audible, like she'd turned slightly away from him. Blue wall. The line went dead. I saved the recording, uploaded it to 3 different servers, and emailed Ava. Another piece of evidence. Another breadcrumb on the trail to whatever Daryl was planning. The white F-150 appeared at 6:43 p.m. I spotted it from my window, parked across the street at the Kroger lot. Legal distance, public property. He could sit there all night if he wanted, and the police couldn't do anything. I took photos anyway, timestamp. GPS tagged, showing the rain-blurred but recognizable truck. Tessa texted system check. All green, I replied. Cameras running, streams configured, panic button ready. Mr. Whitaker knocked at 7. Saw the truck, he said quietly. I'll be up late, reading in my chair by the door. Good book, you know. Might take me all night to finish. The waiting was the worst part. Knowing he was out there, planning, building his courage or his rage or whatever cocktail of emotions drove him. I tried to work, but kept checking the windows. Tried to eat, but everything tasted like cardboard. The apartment felt smaller with each passing hour. At 9:15, the truck moved. Closer. The gas station next block, technically still outside the protection boundary but pushing it. I could see him in the driver's seat, just sitting, waiting. The rain had turned to drizzle, streetlights creating halos in the mist. I posted to my social media not mentioning him directly, but a general update. Working late on a project. Love my Columbus community. Stay safe out there in the rain. Everyone. Establishing my location publicly. Creating digital witnesses to my whereabouts. 10:30 p.m. Another position change. The truck now idled at the apartment complex next door. Still legal, but the pattern was clear. Circling closer like a shark, testing for weakness. I texted the documentation to Ava, who responded immediately. Police won't act on positioning alone. Keep documenting. Stay inside. 11 p.m. Mom texted from a different number. Blue wall, tonight? I'm sorry. My hands shook as I forwarded it to my emergency contacts. The warning was clear she'd overheard something. Risked sending this alert. Daryl was done circling. I did a final system check. All cameras operational. Streaming software ready. Panic macro tested one more time. I changed into clothes I could run in: jeans, sneakers, dark sweatshirt, pulled my hair back, grabbed my phone, backup battery, pepper spray, everything positioned strategically around the apartment. Midnight came and went. The truck vanished for 20 minutes, long enough for me to wonder if he'd changed his mind. Then I heard it. The stairwell door opening 2 floors down. Slow footsteps. Not trying to be quiet, but not rushing either. The walk of someone who'd made a decision. I moved to my position: living room, all cameras in view, laptop open, phone recording, F9 key under my finger. 1 a.m. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Waiting. I could hear breathing through the thin walls. Then nothing. 5 minutes. 10. The silence was worse than noise. 1:45. He went back down the stairs. The truck reappeared, circling the block twice before parking in the back lot. I watched through my bedroom camera as he sat there, interior light on, drinking from a bottle. Building liquid courage. Getting ready. I texted Tessa. Tonight's the night. I'm awake, she replied. System showing all green on my end. Ready when you are. 2 a.m. approached like a countdown. The truck door opened. Daryl stepped out, crowbar visible even from 3 floors up. He didn't try to hide it, didn't care about cameras or witnesses. He was beyond planning now, running on pure rage and ownership. The restraint was gone. The careful legal dancing abandoned. He was coming, and I was ready to show the world exactly what kind of man Daryl Knox really was. 0 minutes, 0 seconds. F9 key down. The streams went live across 3 platforms simultaneously. My screen split into quadrants: doorway cam, living room, hallway, phone angle. The viewer count started at 0 and began its climb. My name is Harper Quinn, I said clearly to the camera. It's 2:03 a.m. March 9th. I'm at my apartment in Columbus, Ohio. Daryl Knox, my stepfather, is outside my door with a crowbar. Protection order number FC 2024-0981 prohibits him from being within 100 yards. He is currently in violation. 31 viewers. The first comments appeared, calling police. Recording this. Stay strong. 0 minutes, 30 seconds. The doorknob rattled. Testing. The sound peaked my audio meters perfectly captured, waveform visible on the stream. Daryl Knox, you are being live streamed, I called out, loud enough for all microphones to catch. You are violating a protection order. Leave now. His response was the crowbar against the door. 1 hit, 2. The chat exploded. 1 minute, 15 seconds. 6,200 viewers. The door frame started splintering. I held my position, keeping all angles covered, maintaining evidence integrity. White male, 6'2", gray jacket, jeans. I narrated for the record. License plate Ohio GHK 4782, white Ford F-150 in the back lot. Breaking and entering in progress. 2 minutes, 1 second. The first deadbolt gave way. Chat scrolling too fast to read, but I caught fragments. Columbus PD notified. I'm in Clintonville, sending this to local news. Stay away from the door. I grabbed the pepper spray, showed it to the camera. Legal self-defense tool visible for documentation. 2 minutes, 31 seconds, 22,000 viewers. The second deadbolt cracked. Daryl's face was visible through the doorbell camera. Rage and bourbon. Exactly like every nightmare from my teenage years, but now broadcast in HD. I know you're in there. His words slurred but clear on the audio. You ruined everything. Your mother, our family, all your fault. Perfect. Confession to stalking, admission of targeting, all recorded with timestamp overlay. 3 minutes, 31 seconds. The door exploded inward. Wood fragments scattered across my entryway. Daryl stood in the wreckage, crowbar raised, rain dripping from his jacket onto my floor. Daryl Knox has entered my apartment illegally. I stated, backing toward the kitchen, keeping the laptop in frame. I am retreating. I do not consent to this entry. Shut up. He advanced, crowbar swinging down, smashing my coffee table, glass everywhere. Always talking, always recording. I'll teach you to be quiet. 4 minutes, exactly. 48,000 viewers. Someone in chat, Columbus SWAT en route, ETA 3 minutes. I kept obstacles between us, the couch, the kitchen island, the equipment cart with my backup cameras. Not trying to be a hero, just buying time while the world witnessed. The pepper spray stayed visible in my hand, deterrent and documentation. Your protection order is on the wall, I said, pointing to where I'd taped it. You're committing felony home invasion. 5 minutes, 1 second. He lunged around the kitchen island. I triggered the pepper spray a 3-second burst that caught him full face. He screamed, dropped the crowbar, hands clawing at his eyes. The chemical cloud was visible on camera, the defensive use clear and legally justified. Please leave, I said, still recording. You're hurting yourself. But he charged blind, arms swinging. One fist caught my shoulder, spinning me into the wall. The phone camera crashed down but kept recording from the floor. The laptop wobbled but stayed upright. Every angle showed him as the aggressor, me trying only to escape. 5 minutes, 31 seconds. Mr. Whitaker's voice boomed from the hallway. Police are in the building, they're coming up now. He stood in my destroyed doorway, phone out, adding his own recording to the evidence chain. I see everything. Harper, you're safe. 6 minutes, 68,000 viewers. The chat was a waterfall of support, witness statements, promises to testify. Sirens filled the air, blue and red lights painting my walls through the windows. 7 minutes, 15 seconds. Columbus police, drop your weapons. 3 officers entered, weapons drawn. Daryl was on his knees, still blind from the spray, screaming about his rights, about ownership, about teaching lessons. The officers looked at the destruction, at me backed against the wall, at Mr. Whitaker recording everything. 8 minutes exactly. The handcuffs clicked closed on Daryl Knox's wrists. That metallic snap echoed through 3 camera feeds, witnessed by 68,491 people across 6 continents. We saw it all, someone wrote in chat. Every second. He can't deny this. I looked directly at the main camera and said, "Thank you for witnessing." Then I ended the stream. The evidence was surgical in its precision. While Daryl raged on my floor, hands zip-tied behind his back, every piece of digital testimony was already replicating across servers. The cloud backup had captured 8 minutes and 17 seconds of multi-angle footage. The automated transcript ran 4 pages, single-spaced. The metadata showed no gaps, no edits, no possibility of manipulation. Archive blue wall, I said clearly, triggering the bot Tessa had programmed. Within seconds, the entire stream package video, audio, transcript, chat logs, viewer list compressed into a legal-ready bundle and fired off to 7 destinations: Columbus PD Evidence Portal, Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, Ava Marlowe's secured server, 3 backup clouds, and a blockchain verification service that would make tampering mathematically impossible. Officer Rodriguez stood over Daryl while his partner, Officer Kim, took my statement. My hands were steady as I showed them the protection order, the previous police reports, the stalking documentation. Each piece of paper matched a digital record. Each digital record had witnesses. The Livestream archive is already in your evidence system, I told them. Case number FC 2024-0981 linked to all prior reports. Daryl tried to lunge from the floor, screaming about conspiracy, about his rights as a father. Officer Rodriguez planted a knee between his shoulder blades. "Sir, you're being recorded on body cameras. Everything you say can be used against you." "Good," I said, loud enough for those body cameras to hear. "Use all of it." My phone buzzed continuously, Tessa coordinating with viewers who'd screen captured key moments, Ava already drafting emergency motions, journalists requesting comment. The story was spreading faster than fire, but I had one priority: maintaining the chain of evidence. I walked to each camera, narrating for the police footage. Doorbell camera, untouched. Living room webcam, still recording to cloud. Phone camera knocked down at 5 minutes 31 seconds but continued recording from floor position. Mr. Whitaker stood with Officer Kim, providing his witness statement. I saw Mr. Knox break down the door with a crowbar. I saw him enter despite Miss Quinn's verbal warnings. I saw him assault her before the pepper spray deployment. Badge 4791. I was a federal witness for 30 years. I know what I saw. Tessa's text came through. Chat logs archived. 68,491 unique viewers. Geographic spread across 43 states and 17 countries. 1,207 users submitted witness statements through the form I just created. The apartment was a crime scene now. Broken door, smashed table, glass everywhere. But also perfect documentation of violence, irrefutable proof of home invasion, and 68,000 reasons why Daryl Knox would never be able to deny what he'd done. I need him charged with everything, I told Officer Kim. Breaking and entering, violation of protection order, assault, property destruction, stalking. Everything you can make stick. She nodded, taking photos of the bruise already forming on my shoulder. With this evidence, the prosecutor will have a field day. This is the cleanest documentation I've seen in 15 years. Daryl was still talking, digging his hole deeper. She set me up entrapment, that little... Sir, you entered her home with a weapon. Officer Rodriguez cut him off. Nobody made you drive here. Nobody made you break that door. You did that in front of 68,000 witnesses. The number seemed to finally penetrate Daryl's bourbon-soaked brain. His face went from red to white. 68,000. Worldwide live stream, I said, walking closer but staying outside his reach. Every second recorded, every word transcribed. Your face, your voice, your choices all documented forever. The internet doesn't forget. Daryl. For the first time since I'd known him, Daryl Knox had nothing to say. The man who always had to have the last word, who built his power on shadows and silence, was speechless in the face of radical transparency. The transport van is here, Officer Rodriguez announced. They hauled Daryl to his feet. As they walked him past me, I said one last thing, loud enough for every recording device to hear, "This is what accountability looks like." The door closed behind them, or would have, if the door still existed. Mr. Whitaker brought me a blanket and made me sit while the crime scene techs worked. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Mom. I'd deal with that later. Right now, I had evidence to preserve. Ava's email came through at 2:53 a.m. Emergency restraining order granted based on livestream evidence. Full prosecution approved. Federal stalking charges possible. You did it, Harper. You got him. But I hadn't just gotten him. I'd exposed him, made his violence visible, undeniable, permanently recorded in the court of public witness. Every person who'd watched that stream was now part of the story, part of the solution, part of the light that made shadows impossible. The system that had failed me 6 times couldn't fail now, not with 68,000 people watching. The courtroom was packed at 9 sharp, but the real audience was online. The prosecutor had successfully argued for cameras in court with 68,000 witnesses to the crime. Transparency was essential. Daryl Knox sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, his lawyer looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Your Honor, Prosecutor Sarah Chen began. We have 8 minutes and 17 seconds of multi-angle footage showing the defendant breaking into Ms. Quinn's apartment with a weapon, assaulting her, and destroying property while violating an active protection order. The judge had already reviewed the evidence. Everyone had. The live stream had been viewed 4 million times across various platforms. News outlets couldn't stop playing the moment the door burst open, the moment Daryl's rage met digital daylight. Additionally, the prosecutor continued, we have 1,207 witness statements submitted in real time, Mr. Whitaker's in-person testimony, and a complete audio transcript showing premeditation and intent to harm. Daryl's lawyer tried to argue entrapment. The judge cut him off. "Counselor, your client drove to the victim's residence of his own volition, brought a weapon of his own choosing, and broke down a door while being explicitly warned he was being recorded. Where exactly is the entrapment?" The bail hearing lasted 12 minutes. Denied. The judge cited flight risk, danger to the victim, and the overwhelming and irrefutable evidence of guilt. Daryl would wait for trial in custody. In the hallway afterward, Ava Marlowe grinned. "Federal prosecutors are interested. Crossing state lines to stalk, using electronic communications for harassment, you built them a perfect case." Mom was waiting by the exit. She looked smaller somehow, but her eyes were clear for the first time in years. "I left him," she said simply. "Packed while he was being arrested. I'm staying with my sister in Wisconsin." We didn't hug too much history, too much pain, but she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Your father would be proud. You fought back with truth." The trial was almost anticlimactic. Daryl pled guilty to avoid federal charges. 7 years for aggravated burglary, assault, and violating a protection order. The judge added a lifetime restraining order he could never contact me or Mom again. But the real victory wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the messages flooding my inbox. Domestic violence survivors saying the stream gave them courage to document their abuse. Tech workers building better panic button apps. Lawyers citing the case as precedent for digital evidence. 3 months later, Tessa and I launched SafeStream open source software that replicated our setup for anyone who needed it. Free to download, easy to install, with automatic cloud backup and emergency contact alerts. Within a year, it had been downloaded 80,000 times. Mr. Whitaker became an advocate for neighbor intervention, traveling to community centers to teach people how to be witnesses, how to help without endangering themselves. "You see something, you record something," he'd say. "Light is the best disinfectant." I kept working at EchoGrid Local, but now I specialized in survivor stories, teaching people how to use technology for protection, how to build evidence chains, how to make their truth undeniable. Every story we aired included resources, hotline numbers, and a link to SafeStream Kit. The apartment got repaired. I stayed, not out of stubbornness, but because that space had been transformed from a crime scene into a victory. Every time I walked through that doorway, the one Daryl had destroyed and I'd rebuilt, I remembered that I'd won. Not with violence, but with witnesses. Not with strength, but with strategy. 1 year later, at exactly 2:03 a.m., on March 9th, I went live again. This time, no crisis. Just me, talking to camera about survival, about the power of documentation, about how transparency can be armor. 15,000 people watched, sharing their own stories in the chat, building community from trauma. "You're never alone when you're live," I told them. "Someone is always watching, always ready to witness, always prepared to help. Don't hide your truth. Stream it." At the end, I held up a small card where I'd written a single line, click. The sound of handcuffs closing. The sound of justice served. The sound that 68,491 people had made possible by simply watching, recording, and refusing to let violence hide in shadows. That click belonged to all of us. We'd earned it together, one witness at a time, proving that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting, it's getting evidence. The stream ended. The light stayed on. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect across the miles. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Remember, your voice matters, and sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is simply bear witness to each other's truth.